Hello, it's all wet and foggy today, but never mind, I'm still walking a bit. So today we'll talk about something. You see, everything I say is linked together. So, but you will understand little by little. Put all the things all up together. It all has a sense, more or less, as a meaning. So today we'll talk about a period in the US called the Gilded Age, and the Gilded Age was all that period around the Civil War. But it started before and ended up, early 1900s, and that's the more or less the industrialization period in the US. And at that time, during the Gilded Age, that time saw the rise of wealthy businessmen, like so wealthy they got wealthier than royalty, and they were really really powerful, and their wealth made them so powerful that they could just buy politics, and they were the one that when the government was having problems, they would go and see them to ask for money, for loans. So these people were called by the press, local press, the press at the time, the robber barons. And these robber barons were more or less all these ruthless businessmen that destroyed all their competition and ended up owing more or less most of the US industries and economy. Um, and it's all linked together. So we'll talk about it another time, but I will talk about Rachel Forta, and she did an inquiry, an investigation on the Inquisition. And during her investigation, she talks about religion and how it's corrupted. And so before all of that, what was used to control people was royalty and religion. And this slowly ended up, and royalty started to disappear. You see, for example, in France, the French Revolution, and all these royalty, these kings and so on, started to lose power. We are maybe like late 1700s and so on. And so what happened? They were slowly replaced by these robber barons. That's the term used in the US, but you had more or less the same in Europe or anywhere else, these wealthy people. But we'll stick to the robber barons as an example, because the US history is quite important, in terms of, all the worldwide situation today. So before that, so before the 1700s and so on, so people, farmers, were having their craft, and they were growing everything they would need to survive. So they were growing apples, they would have their cattle and so on. So they wouldn't really, they would just sell the surplus, so it would be very local in economy, small market, and they would just grow a bit of everything. And suddenly everything got industrialized, slowly and slowly. And these people, these farmers, were suddenly started to, they were asked to specialize in the production of a certain product. So that was the, the era of specialization. I will manage to say the word specialization. You know what I mean. So yes, so they started, and everything got slowly industrialized. And at the time, there was no really transportation to get all the goods to markets and clients and customers. So it stayed quite local. So some people could, yes, sell their products further away, but everything was really relying on, boat, you know. But around the Civil War, the US Civil War, so 1860s, and it completely exploded after the Civil War. They started to use the railroads, and these robber barons are the people that saw, an advantage in, putting money into the railroad business, and that's how they made their wealth, pretty much, So all these raw materials, oil, steel, iron, all these things, they were into that business. And they were so ruthless, they were just buying out all their competitors. And the competitors that wouldn't want, they really wanted the monopoly on everything. So the competitors that wouldn't want to sell, they would just decide to, because they had so much money, they would just decide to sell, go to his market and sell at a loss, for example, to put him out of business. And once there was no other competition, they would just put the prices they wanted to. And at the time, there was no regulation. There's not that much today. Well, there's a bit, but at the time there was nothing. So these people were doing more or less what they wanted to do. The same with the workers they had. So remember as well at the time that there was a massive immigration era, in the US. So there was so many people wanted to get work and so on. So yes, so what they were doing, so we can talk about it. Those who know about economy, they will know. So you've got the vertical integration. So vertical integration is buying the whole process in the production and the sale of a product. So for example, they would want to sell some clothing or something. They were in the clothing business. They would just buy the cotton farms and buy the dyeing factory, and they would even buy you know, the the markets or whatever, the shop. So that's vertical integration. That was a way for these robber barons to take power. But we were mainly specialized on what you call horizontal integration. So they were just buying out all their competitors. And what started as a small scale industry grew so much that they got power all over the US. These people, if you look at their wealth today, they would be billionaires, trillionaires, or their wealth was massive. And so massive, as I said, they could control, the politics and everything they wanted to. And so yes, and you have to see these people, their money. So some of them were quite wealthy. They were born in wealthy families, but to sell at a loss, to have the backup really to do all what they did, they got help, and the help they had at the time was all these wealthy European bankers, and so the most famous robber barons were J.P. Morgan. You had, I think it's Henry is his first name, Harriman. You had, so J.P. Morgan, Harriman. You had Andrew Carnegie. You had Rockefeller and Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt was pretty much kind of the first one, into it, and so yes, and so most of them got their money from European bankers. The US didn't have, so JP Morgan was from a banking family as well, but these US bankers didn't have the power the European bankers had at the time. And most of these bankers were Jews because the law for them in terms of loans and so on at the time, I've put a link in my article about that, was different. So like the Christian law was more or less, restricting loans and the loan system and so on. But the Jews were allowed to loan money, and that's how these people started to grow and grow and grow, because the other people from other religion weren't able really to do all of that. So the most famous of them all are the Rothschilds. And so the first one really that got into it in their family was Mayer Rothschild. And what he did, so I think he had 5 sons, and he sent, so he was So he sent his sons in different markets. So one was sent to London, one was sent to Paris, and that's how they started slowly to control the world. And at the time, these Rothschilds were working with JP Morgan, and that's how they started to give money, loan money to all these robber barons. So yeah, but all in the information. So I've used a video, I think it's from an historian I found on YouTube, and other information as well. I've used something in French, an article from French people called the Decoder ADNM, and that's how I discovered the history of these robber barons. And so I've used as well their investigation in French, and I translated it in English. So, and I've put over links. I didn't go into details. I think I might go back to it at some point, but it's just for you to understand. So everything is linked together. I will slowly go to it, but you have to see. I will just sum up. So, from royalty to religion, it got to all these wealthy businessmen, you know, who really like these people that started to control the world. And please go back to the investigation, the article I've made, about who controls the world today. It's all linked together. The more and more this movement grows, the more and more they control us and do what they want with us. And another thing is, all these wealthy businessmen, the robber barons, it's like today with Bill Gates and so on. They were people that were giving a lot of their wealth to charities. It's all they all try to look good to the world, but these people are ruthless, and they are so ruthless that, for example, in 1907, there was a crisis in the U.S. economy, and the U.S. government went to J.P. Morgan to ask for money. These people controlled everything, and it's still like that today. All these big businesses, they do what they want with politics. They can buy them out. They can do everything they want, and all is linked back to these um, important European banker families and all these old royalties that still have power today and so on. Um, but we'll talk about it more into details. But just see that how all linked is, everything is linked together. From these robber barons to today, like Vanguard, BlackRock, and so on. Everything is under control. Bill Gates, all these like the World Economic Forum, everything is linked together, and it's really really dangerous. So yes, so I will stop here, and you can see what I've done in the link below, or the link of the video. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.